It's embarrassing to me at the Minnesota, as a Minnesotan, what's going on here. Everyone around the world in the WhatsApp group, guys, they've been teasing me about being a Minnesotan. I end every video with live from Minnesota, so it's embarrassing for a Minnesotan. But if you were to count to 1 million at the rate of one number per second, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would take you 11 days. To count to 1 billion, it would take you 31 years.
A billion is a big number, isn't it?
It's a big
I've
number.
heard a few of those comparisons recently. It's amazing how long that would take you.
Yeah, and we're up to 8 billion so far with these guys.
About 4'2", she goes to Iraq and she embeds herself with the Yazidis, and that sect of those people are the most disgusting, awful Muslims ever, according to ISIS, and ISIS do whatever they want to them because they're never going to convert and they're never going to do this. And it's just this horrendous stories that are out there. And it tells you the truth of what Islam actually is that they say that there's a task force for social cohesion. So you can't go out there to break social cohesion. But the Australian government spent $400 million breaking social cohesion with the voice to parliament by saying that black people have more rights than white people and we should recognize them and we should do that. Even though the people on the for side were known communists, known communist sympathizers. Our Prime Minister was a communist, a member of the Australian Communist Party, the Workers' Party, communist like Stalin, like Pol Pot, communist, like that. So now they have a task force about social cohesion. Are we going to go back and look at that? How about the Premier of New South Wales that came out and admitted on camera in front of a press conference that when he was 23 years old, he went to a dress up and he dressed up as a what? What do you think he dressed up as? Starts with N, ends in I. That's what he dressed up as. And he came out and said that, and he said he was ashamed of it. So in social cohesion, are you allowed to do that? Are you going to go back and do something about that? What about the voice to parliament? That broke all social cohesion, like Australian society had never been broken before. And that's by design. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us and conquer us. But they failed dismally because you can't divide a society that loves their country. You can divide a society against the leadership very easily. But once those leaders go away, the love of country returns, man. And people will proudly sing the national anthem and proudly wear a flag over their shoulders and proudly be Australians like that. It's a strange upside down clown world that we live in, man, of no accountability. I'm punished. I'm continuously punished and taxed into oblivion while the people in charge have no accountability whatsoever, none, zero, presiding over the worst terrorist attack in history in Australia and still have their jobs. Still have them. Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Tell us what you really think though about the politicians there.
If you ask anybody in Australia now, right now, what did Albo handle this the right way? No. For here in Australia, we have a thing called a Royal Commission. And a Royal Commission is meant to be an independent third party funded by the government to examine what happened and why it happened, and they examine everything. And they came out, the Prime Minister came out and said, no, there'll be no Royal Commission over that. And the reason he said no to that is because he's worried about what is going to be uncovered. And what will be uncovered is that the Australian federal government and the state governments set the conditions for these Islamists, freaks, these pedophile worshipping freaks, to go and commit these crimes on Australian soils. So they set the conditions to allow that to happen, and they're going to be, somebody's going to point the finger and say that you kept saying that they could protest. You kept saying that they could do that. You're the one that approved that. You approved that. Mr. Police Officer, you said they could do that. You said they could do that. You said they could do that. You never arrested them. They're inciting violence. They're doing all of these things. They're saying fire, fire in a crowded theatre when there was no fire. They're inciting violence. They were saying gas the Jews at the Opera House, but you came out and said with some technology that they weren't saying that. You said that they weren't saying that, even though you told me not to believe my lying ears and my lying eyes. What? That's why you don't want a Royal Commission, because the Royal Commission will prove that you are evil. They'll prove that you're an evil tyrant. And all of them are complicit in it. All of them. There's not one single politician in Australia that is not complicit in the evil that was perpetrated at Bondi Beach. All of them are complicit. No one's held to account. No one's held to account for COVID. Why would they be held to account for a couple of people dying on a beach? What?
So I guess we're never going to get an answer as to why these these asshats were able to shoot for 20 minutes before anyone showed up.
Well,
I
I
guess,
can
I
tell
guess,
you
I
exactly
guess.
why.
Okay, go
I can
ahead.
tell you exactly why.
Yeah, what happened? Why did it take them so long? 20 minutes. These
Because
guys were allowed to shoot.
we've got the weakest, stupidest police officers on planet Earth. There are no stupider, weaker, more hopeless police officers than New South Wales police. That's it. That's the truth. Because anybody with half a brain in their head would pull their weapon out, would close with the enemy and destroy the enemy as fast as humanly possible, because that's the oath that they swore to protect. That's what they were supposed to do. And
We,
they
we,
completely and totally failed. And not one single one of those people that were there that day has been fired. Not one of them. Not one of them. They've all still got a job. Not one of them. Every single one of those people should be locked up for a failure, and for a failure of their duties, and for disservice to the Australian public. They should be put in jail and shamed forever.
now, do you mind sharing the story of your daughter on Bondi Beach, or would you rather not?
No, I'll share
Uh,
the story. She was
okay.
right. We've all seen the footage. Right where that bridge was, she walked across that bridge, walked across the road and up the street a couple hundred meters to a place called Betty's Hamburgers. She was in Betty's Burgers getting a hamburger with a boyfriend, and the shooting started. And her boyfriend was near the window, like, what's that noise? What's going on out there? And then all of a sudden, everybody down the street running down the direction, running away from that. And she called me, "Hey, Dad, I'm okay. Everything's okay." She's calling me while it's going on. And I'm like, "Where are you?" And she said, "We're in Betty's Burgers." And they moved everybody out to the back of the shop. So if somebody came into the front of the shop, then nobody could. They moved them out the back, and then there was too many people, and they came out, and then they sort of started to disperse. But man, she was like properly traumatized by that,
Yeah,
and
I mean, she was in there you said for the entire
the whole
time,
time it was
right?
happening. Yeah, yeah. She wasn't right there. She was a couple hundred meters away from
Yeah.
it, but maybe like probably 150 meters away, not that far. Because I went there a couple of days later to see where she was and how far away it was, and she said she'd walked over that bridge and gone around there. So 5 minutes later, she would have maybe got a shotgun round to her chest, and like, yeah, man, it's just like, how can you not be angry about that? How can you not be angry that this has been allowed to happen? And how can I believe anything that comes out of anyone in the media's mouth, or any politician that pretends to care? That, because if they really cared, they would say, "Unfortunately, this happened on my watch. I'm passing over the leadership of this to somebody else, because ultimately the buck stops with me. And I was the one that made the decisions. I was the one that failed on this watch. I need to take responsibility for it, and I'll be available for the investigations, but I'm retiring and bowing out of this politics forever. And I'm not running away. I'm available. If the media wants to talk to me, you can talk to me. Here it is. But somebody else needs to be in charge, because the buck stops with me." Nobody resigned. Not one police officer, not one person, no one, no
Well,
one.
that kind of
Disgusting failure.
that reminds me of our governor here, Tim Walz. He will not
Yep.
take any responsibility for it. Okay, that's a good segue. Let's talk about Somali fraud, Somali slash government fraud. Now, I'm in Minneapolis. I'm actually in the western suburb, so I'm about 20 minutes away from Minneapolis, which makes all the difference in the world. Honestly, I'm in kind of a bubble here. It's a high-end neighborhood, I'm in kind of a good type of bubble. But you know, I'm a St. Paul boy. St. Paul is with the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis. That's where I grew up. Then I was away for a long time. So it's embarrassing to me at the Minnesota. As a Minnesotan, what's going on here. Everyone around the world in the WhatsApp group, guys, they've been teasing me about being a Minnesotan. I end every video with "live from Minnesota," so it's embarrassing for a Minnesotan. But let's talk about the big look. This is more. This story is about more than just a few bad apples in the Somali community. And First, I want to talk about the scale of this. So right now, the estimate is north of $8 billion, and they have not stopped counting. So there's more to come. Right now, the estimate by this little community is upward to $8 billion. Now, put that in perspective. If you were to count to 1 million at the rate of one number per second, 1, 2, 3, 4, it would take you 11 days. To count to 1 billion It would take you 31 years.
A
Okay.
billion is a big number, isn't it?
It's a big
I've heard a
number.
few of those comparisons recently. It's amazing how long that would take you.
Yeah. And we're up to 8 billion so far with these guys. Now, I heard an estimate that the same kind of fraud with the same programs in California is already estimated at $250 billion.
Goodness, it's extraordinary,
So
isn't it? Plundering the wealth of your nation, man.
yeah, listen. As a yeah, look, I've always been kind of a Boy Scout about paying taxes. I've always been very sure I paid all my taxes, even when I made money on things that I didn't get 1099 for. I'd make sure to voluntarily report it. Now, some people thought that I'm kind of, I was naive about doing that, but that's just the way I am. That's the way, that's my Norwegian background coming through, my Scandinavian background. Okay, yeah, you do the right thing. And but I gotta tell you, sometimes you think, what's the fucking point?
Can I just speak the truth for a minute?
Yeah, please.
Okay, because the truth is in Islam, if you don't convert to Islam, if you don't do as you're told, you'll either pay a tax. That's the first thing, or we'll take you over there and kill you.
Yep,
That's the second thing.
yep,
And in order to get you to convert, I can do whatever I want according to their book,
yeah.
whatever
It's
I want
allowed. It's
to
allowed.
get you to capitulate. So that's why you see so much hubris and so much
Yep,
arrogance with these people. And
yep.
it's not just Somalis, but the
Nope.
vast majority of it are
Muslims.
Muslims.
Yep,
And here in Australia, the same thing is true.
yep,
And I'm doing is speaking the truth. If you read their books, their books are instruction manuals to tell you to do that, to get everybody to capitulate. And that's why they have no remorse,
yep,
because they look at you, at these disgusting apostates.
yep.
Yeah, they're disgusting, awful. They hate you. They think you're disgusting. And they do whatever they can, and they will do whatever they want to you or to anybody else. That's why you have such a gigantic rape culture in England with these Pakistani rape gangs. That's why they do that, because so what, man? She's not a Muslim. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
we can do whatever we want to them, man. Like,
Yep.
whatever. There's an amazing book out there written by one of my favorite Australian authors. It's called Only Cry for the Living. Yeah, and it's a woman. She's about 4'2". She goes to Iraq and she embeds herself with the Yazidis, and that sect of those people are the most disgusting, awful Muslims ever, according to ISIS. And ISIS do whatever they want to them because they're never going to convert and they're never going to do this. And it's just this horrendous stories that are out there, and it tells you the truth of what Islam actually is. And when you get to the bottom of it, you understand exactly why they behave the way that they do. But nobody's saying that. Nobody would have the courage to go out and say that in their doctrines, in the book that governs the way that they live, it says that you can do whatever you want, including selling drugs, including raping them, including do whatever you want to do to them according to their interpretation of that. That's what that is. And is this my opinion of it? Are they all like that? Well, that's what I'm seeing. All I'm doing is just recounting what I've read and what I see and their behavior. Sure, that's my opinion of their behavior. But are they doing it because of that? Are they getting away with it? Or are they the actual bagmen for the people that are enabling it? So somebody fills in the forms and gets access to everything that they need. And once they've got the access that they need, now the people that are enabling that access are on the take.
Yep.
And so this whole giant circle jerk is coming to light where the politicians and the people that are in charge and the people and the deep state bureaucrats that are signing off on it are now being indicted, and
Yep.
they'll
Well,
face jail time as a result of it. But
well,
in the meantime, they've plundered the treasure of the public's money that's designed to fix roads, that's designed to go and imagine one story that's never been told about Minnesota, which I'd be interested to hear, is like, how difficult is it to get your child into childcare or into daycare? Here in Australia, if you're a young family, a working mum and a working dad, and your child has come of school age, trying to get them in before and after school care, man, is difficult.
yep, here
And
too. Uh,
even not so much at like school at kindergarten level, just come back a couple of steps, trying to get your kid into daycare is very, not only is it very expensive, but
yep,
there's very limited numbers of spaces available. And so it's really hard. And the people in Minnesota, taking billions of dollars away from legitimate businesses that could be providing those services. So actually, we don't actually have a childcare problem or a daycare problem in your state. What we've got is a corruption problem, because if you flip the script and get all the money back from the corruption, then you can solve the problem that's there. That's what the government's meant to do. But instead, they're too tempted. The governor there, Tim Walsh, man, he's just a communist. He just takes everyone else's money and
absolutely,
spends everybody
flat
else's money.
out,
He's a commie.
flat out. You know, and the hypocrite and all the
Yeah.
listen the I mean, you use the word bagman. That's what these Democrats are. These Muslim groups, they always vote liberal. They always vote Democratic. They vote for the people whom, if they could, they would kill them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's strange, isn't it? It's a strange Stockholm syndrome that they have.
Well, yeah, Stockholm syndrome on the part of the liberals. That's a good way to put it. Another way to think of it is white guilt or virtue signaling. I know on their part, they don't get these woke liberals. If their Muslim friends had their choice, they would kill these people.
Because you're not converting, so you're either going to pay a tax or we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah,
because that's what we do in Syria. That's what's happening right now in Syria. In Aleppo, where all the Kurds are, they're now, the Syrian government is going in there to get rid of all the Kurds because they're the wrong types of Muslims.
Yeah.
But the silence in the mainstream media. The Iranian government is killing its own people with machine guns, and I've got footage of it on my Telegram channel. I've got lots of it, and nothing has been said in mainstream media. Where are all the Free Palestine protests on the Sydney Harbour Bridge when Iran's doing it to their own people?
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, these woke liberal feminists are, these are the ones that these Muslims target because they're easy they're useful idiots for the Muslims. They say, yeah, well, these stupid lesbians, yeah, they will give us the money without checking the paperwork. And
after we got the money, we'll throw her off the fourth story of the building.
That's
and we're not in Russia, by the way.
Yeah, that's
You're not going to fall out the window. We're going to throw you off the building in front of a live crowd. That's what they do.
Yeah, and they don't stop with the money. We will also we will get our ilk, voted into Congress and voted into mayors of cities. We're going to start changing street signs. I mean,
that's what's happening in England.
Yeah, Muhammad here, Muhammad there, street signs, Muhammad Parkway, Muhammad Boulevard. And so Islam is a political movement. It's not a religion. It's a political organization with no scruples. So this Somali fraud is not just about Somalis, guys. It's about these woke liberals who enable and fund these. There were blind eyes turned. It's more than that. They didn't just turn blind eyes. I'm sure they're getting kickbacks. I'm sure there's money.
There's something to it as well, right? As well, Ed. These liberals that enable it have probably gone to these Somalis. I don't think it's come the other way. The Somalis don't seem that bright to me, man. They seem like dumb as a box of inbred rocks. They're pretty stupid people. So I think it's kind of the other way around, that I can use you as the bagman and the useful idiot to get this, and in order to get this, I'm going to get some of that. And I think there's more of that going on than you realize, because we need a patsy.
Yeah.
And I can just use you as a patsy, and I can just play dumb over here, and I've got plausible deniability as the deep stater. You can never catch it to me. Like there's so much of that goes on. So much of that goes on in government. There's all sorts of corruption scandals going on.
Oh, yeah.
Especially here in New South Wales, where I live, man. Always happening.
I mean, how many Somalis do you think are really smart enough to open up a shelf corp?
But think of how smart the politicians and the bureaucrats that are in charge of doing that, because they know that Muslims hate us, and they know that Muslims can, according to the way that they live, they don't even speak English or pretend not to speak English because you're an apostate and you should pay a tax or I should kill you. And we should actually, that's what they think about us. That's what their doctrine says. So the people that are in charge telling them to go and do it know that they can do it, and know that they'll do it without any conscience. Because has Nick Shirley come out and said, oh, here's a black business doing it and a white business doing it? Because he comes out and goes, no, he's very diplomatic, Oh, is it just Somalis? He goes, I don't give a shit if they're Somalis or they're from Mars.
Yeah,
Fraud is fraud. Like, it doesn't matter. He's just saying fraud is fraud. But the truth is, what other businesses are doing it? We can't see it. Here in Australia, here in New South Wales, same thing. Guess what they are? Muslims. Same thing.
yeah, yeah,
Same shit.
yeah.
It's all coming out, man.
Yeah, just do the investigation, not through the lens of Somalis or Catholics. Just follow the money. Just do the investigation for fraud. Let the chips fall where they may.
But look what turns up every time they may.
Yeah, there you go. That it just so happens
Yep,
that
exactly.
80% of the time, and the other 20% of the time is some white lesbian liberal who is signing the paperwork to
Yes.
get all done. All right, so we kind of so that's
Okay,
a
before
fun
we move
topic.
off that topic, can you,
Yeah.
because it's kind of interrelated, can you offer a comment from your perspective about the ICE shooting?
Oh yeah, because yeah, that just happened with it yesterday. Yeah. So the videos that they've shown. I don't know. I've watched them carefully several times, and it's not as clear cut. And those are more videos that I was since then. It's not as clear cut to me. I mean, they talk about the police officer who was in the car's way, but from what I can tell, he wasn't right in front of the car. It was like he was like on the just in the left fender of the car, and he was in the same kind of position that you've seen numerable times before at Antifa rallies, where the cop, the same kind of. But again, I do not take anything away from the cop. I don't want to put myself in his shoes, so I don't want to judge those kind of situations. Decisions have to be made in literally a split second of a time, and I will always defer to the cop in those kind of decisions. If he felt, in the totality of the circumstances, if he felt the need to exert those powers, I'm not going to second guess him. It's very easy in the in the afterthought, with the luxury of time, we can sit down and analyze this and analyze that. It's very easy for people to criticize the guy, but in the moment, I have to rely. I would defer. Now, if it's a blatant thing, I don't think he woke up that morning planning to kill someone. I think, and I am big ICE supporters by default. And unless they do something that is just, beyond the pale, I'm going to give them a huge benefit of a doubt. I'm a very big fan of theirs. And if you're a protester and you're going to go out and stalk these, officers of the law all day long and put yourself in their path, you do it at your own risk. You forfeit your life when you do that kind of thing. This is an FAFO moment, and and she found out. I'm not glad she's dead, but maybe there's a little lesson to be learned by the protesters that, what, at some point someone is not going to let you spit in their face or stand in front of your car, or what. At some point they are going to be pushing back. And I think these ICE agents show enormous restraints. If I were their boss, I'd say, do whatever you know what they do in Texas. In Texas, they tell them, run them over. They tell not just the officers, but the general public. Say, if you find yourself in that kind of a situation, and a person is illegally blocking you in your car, you're free to run. You're free to run them over. That's the way Texans do it.
There's a couple of things there. There's been some footage. You mustn't have seen it yet. There's been some footage released of the same police or the same ICE agent previously. And the irony is, he's like in exactly the same situation. He's kind of standing in front of he's like on the right-hand side of the car, and this woman is getting into the car, like mouthing off at him. And he kind of moves out of the way, and he's on the left-hand side. And the woman gets in the car on the passenger side, and the lady driving floors it and clips him. Like, clips him. And so, and I thought to myself, well, if that happened to you, you would never stand in front of the car ever again. And here he is a couple of days later standing in front of the car, draws his weapon and puts one straight in the face. Like, there's no, I think there's huge precedent there from a court's perspective to say that a car is considered a deadly weapon. These types of things have happened many times before and it's considered a, in air quotes, a good shooting. It's not a unreasonable use of lethal force. He thought that his life was in danger. He fell back to his training. His training taught him to do that, and that's how he reacted to it. I look at it objectively and think, man, fucking, he's the fastest gun in the West there. That was pretty good drills.
Yeah. That did happen fast, didn't it? Real fast.
Yeah, and I thought, well, if he could draw his weapon so quickly, why couldn't he just take like one step out of the way? It's like he didn't, it's like, I don't know, like, could you step back? Could you have the presence of mind to step back and have the presence? See, the thing is, in your training, you don't have, that's not something that you would train to do, to step out of the way of a vehicle coming at you. Because in training, what they do is, if a vehicle's coming at you, draw your weapon and fire, because you've got to actually stop that, right? So at no stage in his training did they drive a vehicle at him at 30 kilometers an hour from two meters away and say, ready, move out of the way, go. They said, draw your weapon, and he went like that, and he got it out really quickly, right? So that's the dry firing drills that they would have practiced. He never would have practiced to get out of the way. That's why you never rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. And his training is just in instinctive shooting, and that's actually what he did. And I look at that and I thought, well, why couldn't the New South Wales police do that in Bondi? Instead, the New South Wales police are running around with their hands up like this, going, ah, and then they're hiding behind a car taking cover. Meanwhile, some civilian is taking a gun off the guy shooting, and he's unarmed. And then some guy is like firing randomly like that, and there's cops on both sides of the bridge. Fire, cover fire, get his head down, move up and engage. Like, it just, and I'm not armchair quarterbacking nothing, man. Like, the New South Wales police are inept and impotent and, most of all, incompetent. Those ICE agents are proper police officers.
Yep, I agree.
They're
proper, badass. They're badass.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they all look like freaking linebackers from an NFL team.
That's right. They all look like Navy SEALs.
It's funny, isn't it? There must be a factory where they all come out of, like Terminator robots or some shit coming out.
Yeah, and we remember, if I were Trump, I would double all their salaries right away. You all get 100%, and because he's got to hire. He needs more of these guys, man. We have so few. There's so much work to be done. They go in and they do a surge in a city for a month, and then they can't. Then the guy will go on to another city and do a surge there because they don't have enough agents to stay in one city and mop it up, thoroughly. They do one spot, at a time.
Yeah, what you're describing there is a good topic for another podcast. But I just want to touch on it there. What's happening in the UK is all the conditions have been set for a civil war in the United Kingdom, and one of the reasons that a civil war can actually happen, and if you ever read stories or you read the history of how things have happened, and they interview people after the fact, after it's all over, the most common comment people say is, we just didn't see this coming. We just didn't think this was going to happen here. And if you trace all of that back to its genesis and why that happens and how did the conditions arrive where there was the ability for people to do something like that. Like in America, when that George Floyd thing happened, that was all by design. That was 100%. None of that was fake. The police officer didn't kill that guy. He's still sitting in jail. He should be out of jail. All of it is 100% fake. You know the story way better than I do. But most people would go, no, that was real. Black Lives Matter. No, that was all completely 100% fake. Let's just speak the truth and say exactly how it is, because we're not going to get in trouble for saying the truth. That's the truth. It's fake. And then if we look at how the conditions for a civil war happen, it's what's happened there. That was allowed to happen. But if you look at it in somewhere like England, the people in England have had enough. And all we need is a match to start the fire. And all we needed in Tehran, maybe we can finish where we started, is a match to start the fire. And a couple of people start protesting, the police get a little bit judicious, or the police are on the side of the protesters, and it starts to actually escalate. They're with us now. The guns are not against us. They're with us. Now we've got some weapons. Now we're going to start killing the people that are in charge, which is actually what's happening in Iran. There's footage of a guy driving by and killing the police chief with an AK. Where'd you get that AK from? You must have got that from a guy you killed, or somebody gave it to you. Something's going on here. And what happens in a civil war is the government can't move fast enough to handle what's going on. And that's what's happening in Iran. And I saw a really good post on X that showed a picture of, there's a couple of thousand people walking down this street, and the the caption that went with it was, "You don't have enough jails or dungeons to put us all in. There's nothing you can do." So the government can't react fast enough to what's going on. And what happened in that shooting and what's going on with all of these people with ICE is the government doesn't seem like it's reactive enough. It's like
Yeah.
it's just enough to stop it at a boiling point. If I need the National Guard, I can bring him in. If I need these additional assets, I can bring him in. But if it really erupts on the left and the left start arming themselves and start firing back, there's going to be more of them than there is the police. And then that's when the tyranny
Okay. All
begins,
right.
right? That's where
Look,
I don't think that's going to happen in America. I'm not saying that, but in the United Kingdom, I think that will happen.
yeah.
In the United Kingdom, under no circumstances, visit there. The United Kingdom is a failed state.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
I wouldn't go to London the same way as I wouldn't go to Baghdad.
Yeah,
Same reason.
I agree.
Baghdad's
100%.
probably safe. I could probably go to Baghdad and walk around and drink tea and go and see the sights. Same as I could go to Kabul. I could walk around, make YouTube videos like plenty of YouTubers do, and I could do that, but I wouldn't do that. Same as the UK, man. I just wouldn't go there. It's a failed state. And a failed state eventually cannot react fast enough to quell the unrest in a population. And they're the conditions, all of the conditions, every single condition for every civil war that's ever happened previously have been lined up. And remember that all civil wars are asymmetric wars. Eventually someone's going to go, you know that town of Birmingham? You know what? Fuck them. I'm going to turn the power off. And someone will knock down all the power lines. And then they're going to block the roads and then they're going to blow the bridges. And it might not be guns and bombs and airstrikes like you think it is. It's an asymmetric war because the people don't have guns and bombs and fighter jets to drop bombs with. So the asymmetric war will happen and the government simply won't be able to react fast enough. Then the government sends in the lineys. Hang on, let me close the thought. Yeah. The government sends in the lineys to fix the power lines and to fix the power stations, and then they send the army in them with them. And then the people on the opposition side come in and say, well, what are you going to do, shoot us? You never joined the British Army to shoot UK citizens, did you? What are you doing? Yeah, you're right. And then now they're on our side. And now this is how civil wars happen. This is the genesis of it all. I don't think that can happen in America, but definitely in the UK.
Well, it can happen here. You would think that would be the case, Rob, but how long has this been going on in the UK? This is not an overnight development.
Exactly.
We've been talking about this for a decade. The way the UK government is treating its people. In the UK, because in my WhatsApp community we do a lot of programs for passive income, and people in the UK, if they want to do any kind of a crypto project, it is a nightmare for them to get involved in crypto because the banks will not. The banks question single thing you do with your money.
Shocking, isn't it?
If you try to withdraw more than what was it now, like £2,000 out of your bank account, you have to ask questions about what are you withdrawing this money for?
And if you don't answer them and you don't do the right thing, they just go, we're not going to give it to you. Bad luck.
That's right. Exactly right. And if they don't approve of what you're going to spend that money on, then you can't get it. We're as an American, I'm saying, it's none of your fucking business what I'm going to do, with the money. Now, we have that kind of thing going on in America, too, which is a bad sign. If you try to pull out a large sum, they will have the nerve. It happened to me once, because, I don't keep my money at the bank. I only keep enough money in the bank to pay my bills. You know that. Get the money out of the bank, acquire gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring income. Number one is get your money out of the bank. So I don't keep much money in the bank. One day, I went in to pull out a large sum, and I got that question. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
You're in hookers, man. That's what I'm spending on. What are you going to do about it?
That's exactly, I've heard this story before. My smart ass answer was, I'm going to get a hooker. Yeah. And she kind of laughed and said, okay, whatever. And then, she didn't want to ask. She'd given order instructions to do it. And but just the idea that they would even think about asking that. But in the UK, it's common practice for the UK banks. So
remember, it's a form of tyranny. Tyranny doesn't happen overnight. In the United Kingdom, they've got rid of juries. No more juries. They've got rid of elections. No more council elections. So whoever's there is there. If you go to the bank, I'm going to ask you what you're using your money on. Like you're slowly eroding all of my rights. It's that funny analogy. How did you become a millionaire? Well, I lost 20 billion.
Yeah. That started with
And
20 minutes.
how did you go broke? Slowly at first, then bang, all at
Yeah.
once. And the same is true of tyranny, right? We slowly edge away at your rights. That's what's happening in Australia. The worst terrorist attack in Australian
Slowly.
history.
Yeah.
And they collectively punish everybody by taking away all of their rights and
Yeah.
making law-abiding citizens criminals.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything wrong, and they were never intending to do anything wrong, but you made them criminals by association. But you're the one that's a criminal for not preventing it from happening. In fact, you actually set the conditions for it to happen. You should be in jail. But
Yep.
you're trying to put me in jail. What?
Yep.
It's clown world, man. It's a very,
So,
very, very, very dangerous time in society.
yeah.
You
So
know,
I agree.
I always say, maybe we can close out with this one, Ed, because I think it's an original thought that I had. And I said right at the start, it's hard to have original thoughts. And sometimes I look at what's happening in Ukraine. I remember my missus, I was sitting on the lounge once and I was watching. She's like, "What are you watching that for?" I'm like, "If you think that can't happen here, you think it can't happen here, just because Russia is like on the other side of planet Earth, you think that drones and missiles can't rain down on our city. You think that can't happen here. It can. And if you think that the tyranny of Pol Pot can't happen in England under Keir Starmer, you're wrong. He is equivalent to Pol Pot. And if people don't know who that is, be careful what you Google. Just be careful. But that's the equivalent of the tyrannical regime in the United Kingdom. And every single person in the uni party on both sides of politics there, bar maybe one or two politicians that actually do speak out and do say something, is an accomplice to Pol Pot. And if you look back at the history of what he did in Cambodia, that's the potential for England. Because if that guy gets his way, that's what he'll do. And if that guy gets the opportunity, that's what he'll do. And that's what I'm saying is people recognize how evil Keir Starmer is. He's the worst of the worst. He's only like one step behind Mark Rutte. And he's so close to having to deal with a civil war there and then to roll the army out to kill his own citizens. He's so close to that.
Okay, so let me ask you this, though, circling back. So you said, if they get to this point, this has been going on for decades, the way the government. So you got to, at what point, Rob, you keep predicting that this is where revolutions start. Well, what's taking them so fucking long? What has to happen before there's an uprising in the streets? What has to, they keep electing these guys. Starmer, and I know Starmer told the story, but he'll probably get reelected again. So,
but they haven't elected him because he only received 13% of the vote. The whole entire system is corrupt. How he goes around and pulls, like your system is different, right? Yours is very binary.
Yep.
It's one or the other. It's a bit more of a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Ours is not like that. The Westminster system is very flawed. Very flawed in that sense.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I told you this on several occasions, in several of our podcasts. I think the parliamentary systems, they're structurally flawed because it's much easier for the bad guy to get in because of all the gamesmanship, all the coalition stuff going on behind the scenes. They don't have to have 51% to win. They only need more than the next guy with the number. 13%.
And the way the preferences work is really like it's a clown show, man. So
that's got to be a whole specialized sub-segment of political science about how to cut deals and stuff. And in the end, corruption is necessarily encouraged under situations like that.
You guys have crony capitalism in America, but we have lobby groups here in Australia where the big banks, the supermarket chains, the superannuation funds are funding both sides of the uni party of politics. And Australians are starting to wake up to that and they recognize that. What is the ouch point? What is the pinch point? Is it a terrorist attack on one of the world's most famous beaches that is going to be the undoing and the collapse of the Labor government and the Labor Party here? I think that's an overwhelming yes here in Australia. I think in the next couple of years, the incompetence and stupidity of the federal government here in Australia is on all. There's so many eyes on them now. It's on open display for everybody to see. And I think eventually people wake up to it and say, you know what, man, enough is enough of these fucking people. Enough. And then we're going to see real change.
Well, let me give you a counterpoint and get your response to it. Okay, so a Caucasian in the UK right now is now a minority. The most common baby name in the UK every year is now Mohammed. Okay, so the all right, that's the most common
Imagine naming your kid
children's
after
name.
a pedophile.
I know. Well, that's they do. Uh, and so the it, the white population is now an official minority in the country, and even if you had, even if you took the totality of the white population, three-quarters of those are woke liberals, and
Mm.
they've got like a suicidal thing. They will vote their ideology
Yeah.
support. They support these pedo death guys because they feel morally superior. It's virtue signaling. So how many white people left are there to raise arms? I think they've gone past the point of return. I think it's a fallen country. I don't think they can have that uprising that you're talking about because there are not
In
enough of
England, you
them
mean?
left
In the
in
UK?
England. In England, yeah, there's not enough of them to do it. What do you think? What do you?
No, I don't think you're quite right. The demographics will present otherwise. The demographics will show that 8% of the population are Muslims, and it seems like a lot. But remember, only 5% of the German populations were the Nazis, so it wasn't very many in terms of a percentage to actually make a difference. And remember, there's like 2 billion of these devil worshipping freaks in the world. And if only like 20% of them are so-called radicalized, but that's not radical. There's nothing radical about it. They're just the ones that actually follow the rules. So the rule following ones, 25% of that 2 billion of them is a lot of them. And a
So
lot of them
another
seem to be right
okay,
there in the UK. And a lot of
another
them are right here in Western Sydney as well, by the way.
okay. Now another consideration is the UK, along with Australia, along with European, socialist countries, they defanged their population, which is rule number one. If you want to become an authoritarian, right? You take away
Well,
the
they tried to.
guns.
There was a terrorist attack in Sydney, and then they try and take away all the guns out of our society. But
Yeah,
what did they do?
yeah. There you go.
And he
Now,
was a legal firearm owner.
there you go. See, as and I noticed that the guy on the Bondi Bridge, he had a gun. The best as an American, our attitude is the best response to a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you should be taking the opposite approach. You should be arming. You should be passing out guns at the DMV. Yeah, you want a
Like they did
license?
at
You come.
Venezuela, and like they did in Israel.
Yeah.
That's what
So
they did in Israel after October 7.
what? Pass out guns? Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
There you go.
Remember in the IDF that you take your weapon home.
Yeah.
IDF, you might go to the front line, and then like after you've done a week of what you need to do, you go back down there, and you've got your uniform, your weapon, and you've got a whole bunch of magazines, and they take them with them, and they take it home.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
come back to the front in a couple of days,
Cool.
you go in there, like because they're fighting in their own country, right? They're not going anywhere, they're not being deployed,
They
and
do that.
that's how it should be in Sweden and those European countries and stuff. They do that too.
Yeah.
Switzerland.
Yeah. Switzerland. Yep. So
Yep.
I can say it. All right. So do we have time for the end of the world topic, or do you need to run?
Yeah, hit me.
All right. Well, hey, look, you started it all. Okay. So the I'm wondering, is the prospect of a nuclear war greater now, or than it was a year ago, or lesser?
All you have to do is look at the escalation ladder, and the escalation ladder shows Putin continuing to escalate. He used the Reznik originally to say, "Hey, fuck around and find out. We got one of these," and then everyone went, "Nah, he doesn't have many of those. That it's the technology is too intricate. There's no way they could manufacture these at scale." But the truth of the matter is, nobody knows how many Reznik missile he has or doesn't have. All we know is that they're on mobile launchers, and he launched another one the other day. And if you look at things as they go up the escalation ladder, what is he trying to do with that weapon? Is because no defense systems can intercept it, nothing can stop it because it's raining down from space at 25 times the speed of sound. No Patriot missile, no fancy Golden Dome bullshit laser system is going to stop these things raining down. And the one really important thing is that there's no explosives in the warheads of these things. All they're doing is using kinetic
Kinetic
energy.
energy. Yeah. No. Well,
So
okay.
if
Go ahead.
sorry, what I was going to say is if they chose, they could launch 20 of these things And the reason that they target Lviv is because they're trying to turn the power off in that part of the world, because they've turned the power off in eastern Ukraine, turned the power off in western Ukraine, and you're going to cause all sorts of chaos. And Kiev is continuously without power, and they live on generators continuously. So you're taking away the most critical resource of infrastructure, which is electricity. So it's a pretty clever use of the weapon. But if they really want to escalate, and I think when we get half a run away, we're at the top of the ladder. You've only got one more run to go with your hand before you pull yourself to the top of the ladder, is when they use an Reznik missile to target decision-making centers in Kyiv. Once they start firing ballistic missiles that are raining down from space and destroying the parliament and destroying the decision-making centers and their operation centers and all of that stuff, and not using shitty Shahid drones from Iran to blow up apartment buildings with people in them, now we're like just one step away from the end, because that means the Russians have pulled out every single weapon in their arsenal except nuclear weapons. And if that doesn't work and they continue to escalate, or the evil tyrant Mark Rutte himself says, if you fire one more of those missiles, I'm going to unleash NATO on you, then it's game over. It's game over. There's a book right here. Let me just close that thought. This guy here, yeah, Peter Vincent Pry, he worked for the CIA, and he was the expert on nuclear war with America and Russia. And back in the day, he was the one that examined their doctrine and said what it was. And that book there is a collection of his stories from when he was in the CIA, when he'd call his missus and go, get the kids and get the hell out of there. It's happening right now. And continuously happen. And it's like, oh my God, who knew we were so close to the nuclear apocalypse, like continuously like that? But that was in the Cold War with the Soviets. This is a completely different kettle of fish. We've no more New START treaty, which means if one Tomahawk missile is fired, the Russians might just say, well, we don't know if that's got a nuke on the end of it or not. We better launch it all, use it or lose it. We're closer than we've ever been. And remember that the dead hand system that the Russians have as well. No one knows for certain what the dead hand system is. No one knows for sure that if Donald Trump gets wiped out in some assassination attempt, a car crash, a plane crash, a helicopter crash, he dies of natural causes or something that seems unnatural causes, no one really knows what the Americans will do in response. What would happen if Donald Trump was assassinated by what was known to be a foreign power, China, Venezuela, the Russians, something like that? Would it be an all-out nuclear exchange the same way George Bush said, the people that knock down these buildings, they're going to hear us pretty loud and clear soon? And then he launched the full force of the US military against Afghanistan, even though all of that was completely like staged and fake and all of this bullshit and nonsense. I look at the Russians to be very restrained and very realistic about what they can or can't achieve.
Okay.
And what they've achieved in the last 12 months is nothing compared to what they've achieved in the preceding 3 years. We're nudging the fifth year of this war.
Yep.
It's like ridiculous, man, how long this is going on. Yep. And NATO's just sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. If NATO gets involved in this, the Russians will have no choice but to escalate, to de-escalate. That's what it comes down to.
Look, NATO hasn't been doing nothing, and America has been doing. How many times? We had our podcast all through
squarely
from the start of the war, right?
That started, yeah.
That. And how many times did we say this isn't a war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a war between Russia and America and the money people. And Ukraine, the only reason why Ukraine is still standing is because America keeps sending them stuff. They would not they would not be in existence if it weren't for America. Okay, yeah, it's their boots on the ground. They're the ones spilling their blood. They're the ones dying, physically. But they would not be in existence if it weren't for our missiles, for our technology, for our intelligence. It wouldn't be around. So we are involved. Even now, we are involved. Remember, I told you that my armchair quarterbacking is a solution that I thought Trump should do before he got in the office. I said, I think what Trump should do is go to that pipsqueak Zelensky and say, you know what, man? I'm I'm not going to give you anything else. So so they're going to roll you up inside of a week, maybe even 24 hours. So you better
I
make
don't think
it.
so. I don't
So,
think so
so
anymore.
you,
I think if the Americans cut themselves loose from it, it will be the end of NATO. But I think the Europeans will have no choice, and the British will gladly, that freak Starmer will gladly put the British Army in there, which will be
okay.
destroyed the same as the rest of them. But the difference will be is that they'll go in there with air power, and air power will dare the Russians a new asshole and destroy them. And they'll be destroyed from the air, and then the infantry can move up and hold them. This war that we're in is a very different war
Yeah.
to that's ever been fought before, and it's moved to a place of just straight up drones. But on
Yeah.
our side, we've reacted to all of that because we've been watching that. Definitely not the Australian Defence Force, definitely
Yeah.
not us, but definitely the Chinese and certainly the Europeans have as well. The Germans and the British have for sure. So if they went in there, the French, I know they have as well. When you look at some of the training and some of the things that they come out with and what they're doing and how they're working, I think you'll find it's a very very different. We've got a bunch of things that we can do to win against them, but the political will is not quite there. And the reason the political will is not quite there is because the minute that British soldiers start getting engaged with Russian soldiers on the front line or French ones, the Russians are just going to fire missiles at Britain and they're going to rain down missiles on mainland United Kingdom. And there's no support for that in the United Kingdom. Like, why are we going to, we'll support them as much as we can, but we're not going to get involved in that. And now they're firing missiles at us. What? And that'll be the end of them. And no matter what, they'll hold on to power no matter what. And if it escalates to a point, I think closing the loop on all of it, if it escalates to a point of civil war inside of the United Kingdom and it escalates to a place where the government is too slow to react and they don't have enough people to react to the chaos that's going on and they can't stop the chaos that's going on, when all else fails, man, they'll do what the Iranians are doing. We're going to threaten to take you to war. We'll take you to war. That'll stop all that nonsense that's going on the street. We'll have conscription and we'll send everybody that's causing chaos to the front line. Then off you go. And if you want to be a British citizen and you're not, and you're a refugee, you'll need to put on a uniform and go to the front. And then they'll just put you into the meat grinder the
Yeah.
same way the Russians are.
You've spoken a lot on a Zoom call about the Russian military dogma, which is their game plan is to escalate to de-escalate, right?
Mm, mm.
That's kind of what they do. So with that in mind, what was the point of this Lviv attack? Because it is useful for people to know that Ukraine is huge. It is the largest country by landmass in Europe. Okay,
Yeah, it's giant.
it's
Yeah.
a mass. If you look at a map, it is huge. That's why they always refer to it as the breadbasket of Russia. When it was part of Russia, it's a massive, largely agricultural country. But and Lviv sits at the most extreme western edge. It is literally like a 3 minute car ride to the Polish border. So
Mm.
it's right there. So and it used to be Lviv used to be part of, and Lviv is famous for its chocolates. Just so you guys know, if you ever want to visit Lviv, it's got a Western, it's got a European, architectural vibe. I want to visit Lviv after they put it back together. But so that missile, they had to go out of their way to hit Lviv because it's not like hitting Kiev, where Kiev is right there.
This is a form to
So
answer your question.
why?
It's a form of deterrence.
Oh, okay.
That's and it's the final run on the ladder. This is deterrence. Don't do that again. Don't if you keep doing that, we're going to fire another one of these. And that's what I'm saying. The next time they do it, it'll be at Kyiv. And it will be at the decision-making centers at Parliament, and they'll try and get rid of Zelensky in one foul swoop with one or two of those missiles. And they probably could. And it probably would work. Oh, we don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. But you forced our hand. You forced us into this thing. And they're trying to escalate they're trying to de-escalate the situation so it doesn't run out of control by escalating by using these Wunderwaffen weapons that are bigger and better than everybody else's. But the problem with all of this is that nobody knows what the reaction of NATO will be. And Mark Rutte, he might just go, that's enough. I've had enough of this. We're going.
Yeah, okay.
And here comes all the air power, and the air power will stomp them out in a couple of weeks, man. People underestimate the capabilities of our air forces, and particularly NATO combined. Mark Rutte, love him or hate him, good guy, bad guy, the air force is impressive. And what they will be able to achieve from the air is all the Ukrainian soldiers on the ground will
Oh,
need.
yeah. I have no doubt that if Ruta or if America, for something, if we want to, if they want to, they could wipe out. It'd be over in an afternoon. The worry is, as we talked about before, what does Putin do if he feels an existential threat? What happens? And
Well, this is the problem.
that is the only. Let's face it. That's the only reason I think the war is still
Yep.
going on is because
100%.
of
Yeah.
that ace in the hole he has. Okay,
Yep.
so let me ask you an impossible question to answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. You know, put yourself inside of Putin's head and then take a shower afterward, after and get all up. Put yourself in his mindset. So, what do you think his motivation? What's his game plan with you? Why is he so interested in Ukraine? We know the headlines. Yeah, well, they're Nazis in the Donbass, so we're going after the Nazis. Well, that they're gone. So why are you still? So what do you think is his motivation? Is it to cobble back together the USSR? What is his? Why is he doing this?
I'll lean on Rebecca
Okay,
and what she says about that. And she was the analyst that worked for the US government about that and looked after Russia and compared all of that. And her hypothesis is that when you hear him talk about Europe and when you hear him talk with Xi Jinping, he calls it Eurasia. Yeah. And it's the dream of combining all of it from east to west and owning everything from Vladivostok to Portugal. And
really?
yeah, that's the Eurasian thing that he wants. And everyone goes, why would he want to do all of that? And it's got nothing to do with resources. It's got to do with power and control. And once upon a time, he seemed like a sensible dude. He seemed like somebody that, would be, you could work with. But now he seems to have gone mad in his old age.
Hmm.
And you have to recognize that he's an old man. He's not someone who's 45 or 50 years old. He's in his 70s, and he would probably recognize there's less runway in front of him than there is behind him. And if he wants to see through to the end what he envisaged for his country, then he's got to do it now. And part of that is capturing Ukraine, and part of that is owning all of that. And once I own all of that, I'll have the leverage I need to do whatever it is that I need to do to
But
unite Eurasia
okay,
under Russia.
but you have to. Okay, I get that, but you have to think this attack happened after the Venezuelan attack. He saw the power and the might and the efficiency of the U.S. Wouldn't you think this guy would have second thoughts? You know what? Maybe I'm in over my head because I'm not going to go to Portugal because the U.S. is going to stop me. I mean, right? Wouldn't he have to? He's got to be smart enough to
That
realize that, right?
every Russian out there, every spokesperson for Russia said, "Well, we don't want to invade Europe. We never said that." But the rhetoric and when they talk about Eurasia, and you hear him say that all the time, especially when he's with Xi Jinping, he says that all the time. That's the implication of it. But we never said about invading Europe. No, we said we're going to unite Eurasia, and it's a Eurasian thing that he wants to do, and it's like a strange paradox of what it actually is there. What you're describing with I'm looking at the Americans and seeing them snatch and grab in the middle of the night, and they did that, blah blah blah. What you're describing is deterrence, yeah,
Yeah.
and this whole entire thing is based around deterrence. And I could bring this other conversation full circle for us as well. The hydrogen bombs that they have and that we have are tinker toys compared to the aneutronic weapons that we have. So the weapon systems, the hydrogen bomb was created in the 1960s, for heaven's sake. The late not the 50s and 60s, that's when all of that testing was going on and that happened. Do you think for 1 minute that any of that stopped? No. We had first generation atomic bombs, second generation hydrogen bombs, third generation neutron bombs, and then we've got fourth generation nuclear weapons that are never seen, never spoken about. Nobody in the public eye would ever talk about. But we have unlimited free energy. Where do you think that comes from? That's a neutronic fusion. So the weapon systems that go with it are so big and so vast and so destructive that both sides realize that if we ever get mixed up in this, it's going to be the end of everything. not just a nuclear war like you think of the Terminator movie where there's a hydrogen bomb landing on your head. It's not that at all. That's not what this is. They're tinker toys compared to what's really there, compared to the fourth generation nukes that are there that nobody will ever talk about. You hear Donald Trump say it all the time. Nuclear weapons are so powerful. We should never use nuclear weapons. Why do you think he's saying that? Everybody knows that. Xi Jinping knows that. That's not what he's doing there. It's not deterrence. Yeah, he's been briefed on what we really have and what we could really do, and he knows what we can have and what we can really do. And just a couple of weeks ago, they said we can get anywhere on planet Earth within 1 hour. Officials from the US government said that. We can get anywhere on planet Earth within 1 hour, which means we can put a nuke inside that thing and get it anywhere we want within 1 hour. You'll never see it because you don't see the launch, you don't see anything. And when it gets there, we're just going to press a button and it'll blow up.
Okay, I missed those. Could you send me a link to some of those videos that you mentioned about the
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that will be the topic of our next get together. You know, free
Love
energy.
it. A neutronic fusion. That's a bit of a Propellerhead subject.
So Rob, it's been like 3 hours. So it's been a lot of fun, man. Thank you for taking time.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure.
I'll say good night. So Ed Anderson, live from Minnesota, along with Rob Bruss, live from beautiful Cronulla, Australia, where it's a lot warmer than here. Signing out. Okay.
See everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
All right.